Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
March 2021 was a weird time for everyone, right? We were all coming out of lockdowns and quarantines, trying to remember what normal life felt like. I'd spent over a year sitting at home, working remotely, eating too much takeout, and watching my fitness level drop to zero. By the time things started opening up again, I knew I needed to do something about it before I turned into a complete couch potato permanently. I've been kind of antisocial, even before everything happened. Not in a rude way, just awkward around people I didn't know. Small talk wasn't my thing, and I'd rather stay home with a book than go to a party. But I decided that getting back into the world meant actually getting back into the world, you know? So I made a deal with myself that I'd join a gym and actually go regularly, not just sign up and never show up like I'd done before. I did some research online and found this larger gym chain that had pretty good reviews. You know, the purple themed place that advertises itself as a judgment-free zone. That part actually appealed to me since I was out of shape and didn't want people staring at me while I struggled on a treadmill. Plus, it was affordable, and the 24-hour access meant I could go at weird hours when fewer people would be there. So one afternoon in March, I finally worked up the courage to actually go inside and sign up. I'd driven past it like 3 times over the past week, telling myself I'd go in tomorrow, always tomorrow. But that day I just parked and forced myself to walk through the doors before I could chicken out again. Inside there were 2 women working at the reception desk. Both looked like they were in their 20s, probably around my age. I walked up nervously and told them I wanted to sign up for a membership. The first woman smiled and started explaining the different options they had. Here's where my antisocial tendencies kicked in. Instead of just picking a plan and signing up like a normal person, I started asking questions. Lots of questions. I asked her about the equipment, the hours, the classes, the locker situation, whether I needed to bring my own lock, what the busiest times were, if they had sanitizing stations, how crowded it usually got. I could tell I was probably being annoying, but once I start talking when I'm nervous, I can't seem to stop. The woman was really patient though, answering everything and not making me feel stupid about it. While I was in the middle of asking about their cancellation policy, just in case, an older man walked up to the other woman at the desk. He had that classic dad bod going on, you know the type. Looked like he could have been someone's grandfather or father. I wasn't really paying attention to his conversation because I was still talking to my woman about membership stuff, but I could hear him discussing something about lockers in the background. Then suddenly, everything changed. The man's voice got really loud, cutting through our conversation. I looked over and saw him yelling at the other woman. He was calling her all sorts of nasty names that I don't even want to repeat here. His face was red and he was leaning over the counter in this aggressive way that made everyone in the area stop and stare. The woman I was talking to and I both went silent, watching this unfold. The other woman behind the counter looked shocked but was trying to stay professional. Before anyone could react, the man grabbed a hand sanitizer bottle from the counter and threw it at her. It didn't actually hit her, thank God, but it was close enough that the intention was clear. The bottle bounced off the desk and clattered to the floor. The gym went dead quiet. Nobody moved for a second. Then the woman he'd thrown the bottle at, who'd been trying to stay calm this whole time, straightened up and told him that his gym membership was cancelled effective immediately for assaulting a staff member. She said he needed to leave the premises right now or she'd call the police. The man started sputtering and trying to argue that he didn't hit her so it didn't count, that he was a paying customer, that she couldn't do this to him. But the woman didn't budge. She pulled out her phone and started dialing, asking him one more time if he was going to leave on his own or if she needed to finish making the call. He left, still yelling and cursing while he walked out the door. The moment he was gone, both women let out these huge breaths, and I realized I'd been holding mine too. My woman looked at me and asked if I still wanted to sign up after witnessing all that. I actually laughed and told her that watching her co-worker handle that situation made me want to sign up even more. I explained that if the staff could deal with people like that and still keep their cool, I figured I'd be in good hands. We all ended up talking for a while after I finished signing up. The woman who'd been assaulted was shaken but okay, and we bonded over how absolutely unhinged some people could be. For years, I've been driving the same car, a 16-year-old Dodge Neon SE that most people would probably laugh at. It's blue, faded in some spots, and has this massive rust spot on the rear passenger side right above the gas tank. I don't care though. The thing runs like a dream, gets amazing gas mileage, and I own it outright. No monthly payments, no stress. Plus, it handles really well, which is important when you live in Michigan. If you've never been to Michigan, let me tell you about the roads here. They're terrible. I'm talking potholes the size of small craters, uneven pavement that makes you feel like you're driving on the surface of the moon, and jagged chunks of asphalt everywhere. Everyone who lives here gets at least one flat tire in their lifetime. It's basically a requirement for living in this state. I was driving home from work one evening taking this really awful street because it was the only route available to me. I tried my best to dodge the potholes, swerving around the bigger ones and slowing down for the really nasty sections. But you can't avoid them all. And sure enough, I hit a bad one. I felt it immediately, that sickening thud that tells you something's wrong with your tire. I pulled off the road quickly, turning into the nearest open drive I could find. Turned out it was a used car lot, which actually worked out perfectly because there was plenty of space for me to park and check out the damage. I got out of my car and walked around to the rear driver's side tire. It was low but not completely flat. The pothole had just loosened the seal on the stem valve. I keep a can of Fix-A-Flat in my trunk for situations exactly like this, so I figured I could handle it myself. While I was crouched down next to my tire, another car pulled into the lot behind me and parked on the other side. I didn't pay much attention to it at first. I was too focused on my tire. A few moments later, the owner of the dealership came out of the building. I guess he thought I was there to shop for a car or maybe trade mine in. When he saw my low tire though, his whole demeanor changed. He told me I should move my car away from the side of the road for safety reasons, and suggested I pull it up toward the front of the building. I agreed and carefully drove my car to where he pointed. He was really helpful. He stuck around and helped me make sure the valve was secured properly and that the pressure was stable. I thanked him and got back in my car, ready to head home. I put my key in the ignition when suddenly something banged against my window. I looked up and saw a woman standing there trying to get my attention. She looked exactly like what you'd imagine when someone says the name Karen. That haircut, that expression, everything. I rolled down my window and asked her what she wanted. She immediately demanded to know if I was done yet. I was confused and asked her what she meant. She got more agitated and said I was done because her daughter had been waiting long enough. I looked past her and saw a teenage girl, probably 16, standing there in a dark miniskirt, white tank top, and 4-inch heels. This was in February, by the way. She was also wearing so much cheap makeup that she looked like she was auditioning to play a villain in a comic book movie. I asked what her daughter was waiting for. Karen told me not to act cute and that her daughter needed her turn because I'd taken up enough of their time. I was still confused and asked what she was talking about. She asked me if I was stupid and said my test drive was over and that it was her daughter's turn now. The daughter was standing behind her mother with her arms crossed, giving me this smug look like she thought I was the dumbest person alive. I realized what she thought was happening and tried to explain that I wasn't on a test drive and that I owned the car. She cut me off and yelled at me to get out. I told her again that this was my car. She insisted it wasn't and said she'd seen me pull back into the lot because they'd been behind me the whole time, so I shouldn't try to lie to her. I tried to explain again, but she interrupted me and said I hadn't even gone inside the building to sign the papers, so she knew I was lying. She called me a stubborn little brat. I tried once more to tell her I had the paperwork to prove it was mine, but she just demanded I get out immediately. I told her no and that this was my car. She refused to believe me and said her daughter wanted it and she was going to buy it for her right now. She actually tried to pull open my door, but thankfully I'd locked it when I got back inside. She then demanded I give her the key, Before I could respond, she reached through my open window and made a grab for the key in the ignition. My key ring had my apartment key and 4 other keychains attached to it, so it clearly wasn't something that belonged to the dealership. When she tried to yank it out, I grabbed her arm and pushed her back. I yelled at her to get away from me. She screamed that I was a witch and that I'd just assaulted her. I quickly rolled up my window and was about to start the engine and get out of there when I saw the dealership owner coming back. He asked Karen what was going on. She immediately started screaming that I was a witch who just assaulted her. She demanded he call the police because I'd attacked her after she told me to let her daughter have a test drive, and now I was trying to steal the car. The dealership owner looked at me, then at my worn-out, dirty car with the faded bumper sticker on the trunk, and gave her this look like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. He told her that the car wasn't for sale and that it was my car. Karen insisted it wasn't mine and said that until I signed the papers, it wasn't mine and her daughter wanted to drive it. She explained that her daughter had just gotten her license and she'd promised to get her a blue car, and this was the only blue car in the lot. She was wrong, by the way. There was another blue car parked right behind her. Also, her 16-year-old daughter, who just got her license, was apparently going to test drive a car in 4-inch heels. The dealership owner repeated that the car wasn't his to sell and that it already belonged to me. Karen refused to accept this and said it was impossible because she'd seen me drive the car onto the lot and seen him telling me to pull up to the building. She accused him of lying to her. He tried to explain that I'd had a low tire and had pulled off the road, but she cut him off. She demanded to know why he wouldn't let her daughter have her turn and insisted her daughter deserved it. She even asked if it was because her daughter wasn't dressing like me, calling me a witch again. I was wearing blue jeans, tennis shoes, a baggy shirt with Kirby from Nintendo on it, and a green jacket. The only skin showing was on my hands, neck, and face. The dealership owner told her to stop and said he was going to have to ask her to leave. She refused and said her daughter needed this car because she'd promised her, and all he was doing was wasting her time. He asked her to leave before he called the cops. She threatened him and said if he did that, she'd tell the cops that I'd assaulted her, pushed her daughter, and that he was selling stolen cars. She demanded he give her daughter the car right now or else. She actually said the words "or else" like a cartoon villain. He simply told her to leave. She called the whole situation ridiculous and pulled her phone from her purse. She called the cops herself and said he was going to regret being so disrespectful to her. She ranted that all he had to do was sell her the car, but instead, he decided I was better than her daughter. She kept insisting her daughter deserved the car. I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, but I was still nervous. I looked at the dealership owner through the windshield and he gave me a look that told me everything would be fine. About 5 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up and an officer got out. Before he could even ask what was happening, the woman started shrieking at him. She demanded that I be arrested and claimed I'd assaulted both her and her daughter and was trying to steal her daughter's car. The cop didn't even flinch. He just looked at me, then at the dealership owner. He greeted the dealership owner by his first name and asked if what she was saying was true. The dealership owner said not a word of it was true and told the cop, also using his first name, that he could check the lot's security cameras if he wanted. Apparently they knew each other. The woman looked furious and demanded to know why he didn't believe her. She couldn't believe he was going to take the dealership owner's word over hers and told him to just look at me. Her daughter was rolling her eyes like she was bored. The cop said he needed to get both sides of the story and started to ask about the alleged theft. She cut him off and confirmed that it was her daughter's car. The cop said that was easy enough to prove. He walked over to the passenger side of my car and motioned for me to open the door. I did. He asked for my license, registration, and proof of insurance. I handed everything over. It took him about 2 seconds to notice that the name on my license matched the name on my registration, which was dated from almost 2 years ago. He nodded, handed everything back, and closed the door. He told Karen that it was my car. She said it wasn't possible because I'd just gotten it and couldn't have signed the papers yet. She demanded to know why everyone was against her daughter and insisted her daughter needed a car. The cop told her that it was a crime to try to file a false police report. He said the car wasn't stolen and he seriously doubted I'd assaulted her. He told her he was going to look at the cameras. Karen tried to leave, but the officer stopped her. He went inside with the dealership owner and reviewed the security footage. When he came back out, he walked straight over to Karen and told her she was coming with him. She tried to argue, but he wasn't having it. He put her in the back of his patrol car and drove off. I thanked the dealership owner before I left. He handed me his business card and joked that if I ever needed another car in the future, he'd make sure there were no crazy people hiding in the trunk. My free time was precious. I worked full-time as a nurse, so those movie nights with my friends meant everything to me. It was my chance to unwind, laugh, and just be myself without worrying about work schedules or parent-teacher conferences. My friend had been hosting these movie nights for about 2 years, and we'd rotate themes. Horror, comedy, romance, action, you name it, we'd done it. The rules were simple. Bring snacks, bring drinks if you wanted them, bring a movie or two, and leave the kids at home. This wasn't because we didn't like children. We all had kids or worked with them. This was our adult time, our sanctuary from responsibility. I knew about my friend's sister, we all did. She was notorious in our group for being completely self-absorbed. But her daughter, that kid was on another level. Every single time she was around, something got broken, stolen, or ruined. She grabbed my purse once at a family barbecue and dumped the entire contents on the ground, including my wallet, which fell into a mud puddle. Her mother just laughed and said, "Kids will be kids." No apology. No offer to help clean my credit cards. Nothing. When we planned this horror movie marathon, we were all relieved it was adults only. I brought my copy of the Blob remake from 1988. I love that movie even though it was pretty gruesome. I'd also brought homemade brownies and a bottle of red wine. We were 2 bottles in and completely engrossed in the movie when we heard the front door open. In walked my friend's sister, dressed like she was headed to the hottest club in town. Behind her was the kid wearing pajamas and carrying a backpack. The sister announced she needed us to watch her daughter because she was going out for the night. My friend stood up from the couch, already shaking her head and refusing immediately. The sister acted confused and asked what the problem was, pointing out that we were just sitting around watching television anyway, so it shouldn't be a big deal. My friend told her absolutely not. She reminded her sister that she hadn't called or asked permission first, and this was supposed to be her night with friends. The sister pushed back, saying she'd already promised her daughter a fun movie night with her aunt. The kid started whining right away, clearly having been told she'd get to stay. She complained that her mom had promised and kept insisting she was supposed to be there. My friend repeated that she'd never agreed to anything and told both of them they needed to leave immediately. The argument got louder, with the sister throwing around words like family and responsibility, trying to guilt my friend into compliance. While they argued back and forth, I watched the kid wander over to the coffee table where we'd left the remote. She picked it up and pressed play. None of us noticed at first because we were all watching the argument unfold. The sister was getting louder, more demanding, her voice rising with each protest. Then we heard the screaming from the television. The kid had unpaused the movie right at one of the most disturbing scenes. The little boy in the movie was being dissolved by the blob, screaming when he was dragged underwater. The kid shrieked and burst into tears. The sister completely lost it, screaming about what we were watching and demanding to know how we could let her daughter see something so disgusting. She was red-faced and furious, yelling at the top of her lungs. She demanded to know who had brought such a horrible movie and who was responsible for traumatizing her child. I started to get up, but my other friend beat me to it. This friend was tall, athletic, and had absolutely zero patience for nonsense. She'd actually punched the sister in the face at a party the year before after the sister had slapped her. The sister had been flirting with her fiancé, got called out, and thought violence was the answer. She learned very quickly that it wasn't. My athletic friend told her it didn't matter whose movie it was. She said what mattered was that the sister had come in uninvited, was harassing her own sister, wasn't watching her kid, and was now angry because her kid had once again touched something that didn't belong to her and scared herself in the process. She suggested very firmly that the sister take her kid and go home right now. The sister actually took a step back. when my athletic friend spoke, but then she turned to me instead. I guess she figured I was a safer target. I'm tall but not intimidating to look at. She was wrong about that. The sister got right in my face and started screaming that we all needed to watch her kid because she had plans and needed to go out. I asked her calmly why it was our job to watch her child, pointing out that none of us had given birth to her daughter. She gasped like I'd said something absolutely shocking and yelled that I had a son of my own. I agreed that yes, I did have a son, but I pointed out that he wasn't there. I explained that was because I wasn't a self-centered jerk who would bring him to an adults-only gathering or dump him on other people without asking first. That set her off completely. Her face went purple with rage. She pulled her arm back, clearly getting ready to slap me. I've been in enough situations to know when someone's about to swing. She telegraphed it like an amateur. I stepped to the side, grabbed her arm, twisted it behind her back, grabbed a handful of her hair, and slammed her face into the wall. Not hard enough to hurt her badly, but hard enough to make a point. She struggled and cursed, but I had a good grip. I told her she had 3 choices. She could take her kid and leave quietly. She could let me beat her in front of her kid. Or I could call the cops, have her arrested for assault, and call her ex-husband to pick up their daughter. She stopped struggling and agreed to leave. I let her go. She stumbled back, touching her face where it had hit the wall. Then she turned to my friend and asked if she was really going to let me treat her like that. She brought up family and tried to guilt-trip her sister into taking her side. My friend walked over to her purse, pulled out her keys, and removed one from the ring. She held it out and told her sister it was her house key. She explained that neither the sister nor her kid were welcome in her home anymore and she needed to get out immediately. The sister's mouth fell open. She looked at each of us, one by one, like she expected someone to defend her. When she got to me, I just crossed my arms and stared back. Nobody said a word. The sister called us all a terrible name and pointed at me specifically, calling me something even worse. She grabbed her crying kid by the arm and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. My friend immediately apologized, but we waved her off. We all knew her sister was a problem. Then my friend did something brilliant. She called her parents and told them exactly what happened. She warned them that her sister would probably try to dump the kid on them next and suggested they make themselves scarce if they didn't want to babysit all weekend. She told them to warn the other relatives too. The sister had pulled this stunt on them many times before. We settled back in, finished our wine, and watched the rest of our movies. Later we found out the sister never made it to the club that night. She couldn't find anyone to take her kid. Even better, a few months after that incident, her ex-husband took her back to court and won full custody. Turns out repeatedly abandoning your kid to go party doesn't look good to a judge. We kept having our movie nights for years after that. Nobody ever showed up uninvited again. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.